everyone. So, we are going to continue with the same book. My name is Book and Autobiography. This is part 3. How sheep entered my life. I was still rolling when out of blue sheep entered my life. That's right. Deep down inside of me, there's a part that still bleeds, especially when I daydream of days gone by 2000 years ago and more. When a certain Ptolemy V, pharaoh of Egypt, took great pride in his library at Alexandria. The story goes that when news reached him that King Yumin II of Pergamum was buying up large quantity of papyrus and hoped to equal Alexandria's collection of over 500,000 scrolls. Ptolemy was having none of it. He gave orders that no more papyrus be exported from Egypt to Pergamum, a city port in Asia Minor. But the king of Pergamum wasn't about to give up so easily. Necessity, they say, is a mother of invention. And you mean in turn gave orders that something must be found to take the place of papyrus. So, after thinking long and hard, the people of Pergamum came up with an idea. Sheepskin. Without the holy bits. So, there you have it. Now, you know how sheep became part of my family tree? Sheepskin was a new papyrus, and this new writing material from the skin of sheep of Pergamum would become known as parchment. The skins of other animals such as cows and goats were also used in some places. And there's a very special kind of parchment called vellum. Makes you think of whale? Didn't you? Spot on! That's because vellum was made from the skin of calf. I can't help feeling sorry for all the poor animals. It could take at least 200 sheep to make one Bible. So just think how many it must have taken to make a whole library. But if I'm honest, I was pleased with my parchment and vellum look. These many sheep takes to make one Bible. I don't mean to sound vain, but you would never believe how pampered I was in those days. After smoothing my roughness with a pumic stone, people would actually anoint my parchment skin with cedar oil to protect me from moth attack. Papyrus was still around, mind you, but since parchment wasn't as fragile as papyrus, my parchment look soon caught on. You can see how from the animal skin they made parchment paper. Parchment. Here they are rubbing it with a pumic stone, and this is a final skin which is without any woolly bit or the roughness, and this is now turned and cut into pieces to make a parchment. spreading the word with feathers. Centuries later, monks were still copying me on parchment in the monasteries of Europe, using a goose quill for a pen and a bull's horn for an inkwell, a penknife on standby for scraping away any mistakes. So how would you like to be monk back in Middle Ages and have to pluck your pen from a bird? Don't look so surprised. Back then, people wrote with quill pens made from feathers of various birds. Swan feathers were much prized for their quality, turkey feathers for their strength, and crow feathers for providing a fine nib. No one asked the birds for their opinion, of course. But goose quills, which were the most popular, were in use until 19th century when the fountain pen was invented. Did you know that when English poet Edmund Spenser died in 1599, his fellow poets said farewell by dropping goose quills in his grave at Westminster Abbey? And what do the wizard in Harry Potter's write with? Quill pens. As for going back to the Middle Ages, I must warn you that there was no popping to the shop to buy a bottle of ink. You had to pick gall apples, those small nutty brown balls that grow on oak trees. Watch out for the gall wasp. Ooh. Then grind the gall apples up and leave them soaking in a pot. And that was the only beginning of long complicated process before you ended up with that precious liquid known as ink. Never mind the back-aching hours that went into preparing the parchment. Another complicated business. That meant soaking sheepskin or calf skin in lime water and then leaving the slippery skin to dry. Are you having second thoughts about going back to Middle Ages? Too bad, because I'm taking you there. When my letters shimmered. Imagine you are in a certain room the monks called the scriptorium. This was where they spent devoted hours even in the darkness of winter, for no candle was allowed in case a precious page of parchment or vellum got caught in the flame, or a scribe's handiwork that had taken years was lost in a moment. Even in those dim stone rooms, you can't imagine how book glowed. You could say it was book's golden period in the true sense of words, for I was in the more than capable hands of the illuminators. And who were illuminators? Mostly monks in monasteries, but also nuns in convents and professional artists. And what exactly these illuminators do? Illuminate me. With pictures that shone with colors from the juices of plant and made my pages come alive with a shimmer of gold and silver, so those who could not read and write would understand the meaning of stories from the Bible and the lives of the saints. They worked for long hours in silence until my parchment began to glow. each letter a soulful stroke. Pleasant to me is the glittering of the sun today upon these margins, because it flickers so. It's a marginal note by an Irish scribe in 9th century manuscript. This went on for hundreds of years, and great work of illuminated beauty were made behind those monastery walls, where the monks bent over me with their quill pens, copying me by hand, and their reading flowering in my margins. Are you surprised to hear that in those days I was considered so precious? I was kept under lock and key, or even chained to a desk. Well, I was. You don't know how lucky you are, dipping into me for free. And there you go, flipping my pages again. I can't help wondering what those monks and scribes would have had to say about that. If anyone steal this book, let him die the death. Let him be fried in the pen. Let the falling sickness and the fever seize him. Let him be broken on the wheel and hanged. Amen. Inscription in 12th century Bible. So this is how important the books were at that time. A spine is taking its time. Memories of being handwritten come back to me whenever I hear the word manuscript. Do you know why a writer's work is called manuscript even when it's written on a computer? Because in the Latin language of the Romans, by hand is manu, and scribo means I write. And why do you think I am sometimes called volume? Because those Romans roll me up and down, and in Latin the word volvere means wait for it, to roll. Makes you think of revolve, doesn't it? Strange creatures' words. The way they germinate like seeds. Now I would like to tell you about something those Romans did that changed my shape forever. It must have been very awkward for them reading me and rolling me as some at the same time. So instead of pasting my parchment together end to end and rolling me, they started folding me up and binding me along my folds with leather thongs or strips of wood. And so I came to be called codex, from their Latin word caudex, meaning tree trunk. With a wooden binding for a spine, I was handy and easier to carry. People didn't have to roll me. They could flip my pages backward or forward until they came to the ones they are looking for. And now there was writing on both sides of my parchment, the front and the back, not just on one side like in many papyrus days. I can't tell you how exciting it was. To be able to stand upright in pretty much the same rectangular shape you see me into this day in a bookshop window or a library shelf. Yes, I'm still standing in my codex form. And do you know what? People are still flipping my pages when they want to find a favorite passage or a poem. You would think they would have a look at my index or a content page first. But no, there's something about human fingers that can't seem to resist giving book a good flip. And I've got to admit, though I've never said this before, that when I feel my pages being flipped, a tickle of excitement runs down my spine. Is this person about to read me? I'm thinking. Or are they just flipping and dipping into me? So, part 3 is finished. I hope you enjoyed hearing this story as much as I enjoyed reading this story for you all. Bye then, take care.